Hello and welcome to Meuse Boutique's tutorial on how to use chalk paint. You may be familiar with Annie Sloan, Cece, Caldwell and Fat Tug, but today we'll be using our own brand, French Country Furniture Chalk Paint, which acts the same way as all of these. I'm Vanessa Davies. Let's get started. Alrighty. So your first step is deciding whether you want to use a paintbrush or a roller. Personally, most of the time I prefer to use a lint-free roller just because it takes less time. I can do something with flat surfaces like this without having to do the up and down motion the whole time. But there's a lot of benefits in the paintbrush in that it gives it a really awesome texture because you can see the brush strokes. I'm going to start off with the roller for the base coat, and then we'll see what we get into when it comes to the rest of the dresser. Meuse Boutique's French Country Furniture Chalk Paint is a dream to work with. If you're not already familiar with chalk paint, well, you're going to find out today. We will be painting this dresser using only our paint and wax. So what chalk paint is it's self-priming. You don't have to sand the furniture down. You don't have to put primer on it or anything. It's amazing. All you have to do is apply 2 coats of our French Country Furniture paint and then apply the wax afterwards. I'll be painting this dresser in London Grey. Alrighty, so you want to make sure that you get quite a bit of paint on the roller here. You can always roll out a bit extra if you've got it, especially because it's a bit windy out here. We don't want to be too much excess. And then it just goes on nice and thick. And it really just takes no time. That's literally 1 coat, and it's got great coverage right away, and it's awesome. And 1 jar of the paint will do like I would say it could do like 3 dressers this size, and maybe even a couple little tables. So it really goes a nice long way. Got a couple of runs here, a little bit too much. It's really easy. If you've got a run, you can just go over it with a dry this, or you can just, take your brush and get out the excess bits. You do want to watch for runs because even though it's not a big deal, you can always sand it down later. I kind of think, if it's easier to fix it when it's wet than it is when it's dry. And the nice thing too is that the paint is water-based. So if you spill it, I've gotten it here on my microphone. I've probably gotten paint on every one of my dresses I've ever owned, and I just, run it under hot water right away, and it's a little bit of a thing, but it always works out fine because it is water-based. So a couple things to keep in mind that you don't have to do when you're painting the drawers out is don't worry about the bottom. No one's gonna see it. And when it comes to painting the sides of the drawers, you don't have to go all the way down. Just go as far as you think you're gonna open the drawer, because you're not gonna pull it out the whole way every time you open it. So just paint what you'll be able to see. Save yourself the work. Alright, so the trick to painting the hardware is you just want to use a paintbrush, obviously, and you want to use just have a bit of paint on it, so make sure it's really wiped down so that you can just blot it on, so that way you're getting it in all the like little nooks and crannies of the knob, and you don't have to worry about the paint blobbing up too much. If it does, it's fine, because we're going to be sanding it down later anyways to distress it. But you know, the saves more time. Pretend you're like doing like a little dabby piece. I don't know what that's called, spackle paint. So this is actually really awesome. Just a little side note, as you can see my whole setup behind me, I literally just finished painting the knobs, and the dresser, which I started on, is completely dry to the touch. So I was gonna say, like, once it's like a little bit tacky but it's, you know, dry to touch, then you can get started on the second coat. As it is right now, it's like it's been sitting out for 2 hours, which I'm thinking is probably, thankfully, due to all of the wind. So there is a good part about the wind and the sunshine. So we're ready to get started on coat number 2. Alright, so typically you want to wait to put the hardware in until after you've waxed the furniture, after you've distressed, and probably wait a couple days so that there's just no tackiness whatsoever on the piece of furniture. But for the sake of today, making it look pretty as we go, I'm just going to go ahead and put it right on and hope that it doesn't scratch up my furniture too much. So when it comes to distressing the piece of furniture, pretty much it's your time to be creative and play. So you can really do whatever you want, but if you're wanting to stay a bit on the conservative side, just distress using like the corners where it'll have lots of wear. So the corners, the edge, like the outside edge, the drawer pulls, and yeah, it's just that easy. And then underneath the drawer pull, where people would grab it. Now, I started out using using a medium grain sandpaper for this, and it was just too harsh. It was really getting distressed, which was a bit more industrial than I wanted for today. Less is probably more starting out, because you can always go and distress it more if the desire so strikes you. Another thing to remember is if you have gotten a run in the paint somewhere, which I actually didn't have because I'm such a perfect painter, but if you do get a little run in the paint, just sand it out because it adds to the charm. Or if you've gotten a really rough piece of furniture, say with water damage or like a big chunk out of it, like a chip, just distress it even more, because when you're accentuating the imperfections, that's what's really industrial, French country, like that's what people like about this kind of furniture. Your last step is applying the soft luster finishing wax. Now, while I know at this point right now it looks like it's done, what the French country furniture wax does is give it just a little bit more of a luster, and it protects it from getting nicked up too easily. So it acts as a seal, it soaks into the wood, and it protects it from getting chipped and from all that fun stuff. And the best part about the wax too is we make it in-house as well, and it's 100% all natural. So my favorite thing to do once I'm done doing my waxing of the furniture is rubbing it into my hands, because it makes my hands really, really soft. But for this, you want to use a lint-free cloth or rag, like an old t-shirt. We supply them in store, but once that one's gone, just cut up an old t-shirt and you're good to go. And make sure it's really clean. So you want to get a nice little bit on there, and then I tend to just apply it in circular motions. Well, this looks pretty done to me. If you'd like to get your own jar of French country furniture chalk paint from Meuse Boutique, We're located at 2005 West 4th Avenue in Kitsilano, Vancouver. Have an awesome day!